welcome to the Sean Lowery Show. This is episode 50-something. I don't even know what episode it is, 50-something. But I have an amazing guest today. I'm excited to talk to him. Mike Gastin, a branding and marketing strategist and expert. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm on the Sean Lowery Show. How can I not be doing good?
That's right.
What's going on, man?
Not much. You came across my YouTube, and I don't know why. And I'm a guy who goes with my instincts a lot. And something about my instincts was like, I'm gonna reach out to this guy, see if he wants to come on the podcast. I don't know why. What do you think it was?
There was this mysterious magnetic draw. I just got this animal magnetism, or
I guess that's it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we reached out and got connected. And so why don't you tell me and the listeners just like, who are you?
Yeah. So thank you for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here. And, just to back up, I want to say, I don't know, maybe a few months ago, you found my channel and I saw that you were commenting or something. So I went and checked you out. I've watched some of your live streams. You did some Facebook live streams where you crack a beer on a Friday.
Yeah.
You've got the signature pencil behind the ear. I love that. The little branding right there.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad to be here today, Sean. Looking forward to our conversation. So yeah, my background, I studied communication and design in college. And kind of my dream as a young kid was to own an agency. I thought having a red convertible and owning an ad agency, and this is back in the early mid 80s, would be the bomb. I've yet to have a red convertible, but I did have an agency for about 15, almost 20 years. I shut that down a few years ago to kind of go solo. I'm a consultant now, and I work with privately owned businesses, usually between like 10 and 200 million a year in revenue. And I help them take their marketing function from an overhead to a revenue generating machine. I focus on branding and marketing strategy. I've got a lot of experience both in consumer and B2B. But the thing I love so much is I love working with entrepreneurs. You talk about, your show's about entrepreneurship. You're a business owner.
Yep.
I just feel like entrepreneurs make the world a better place. You could have people that are entrepreneurs that are jerks, and you can have people that are great. But I feel like wealth creation is a underappreciated thing. When you create wealth, you're changing your community, you're changing people's lives. And I think the free market is a great way to do that. So for me, it's kind of like a great way to make a living, but it's also a personal mission. I get a lot of satisfaction on helping people like yourself and others, succeed in what they're trying to do. Because when they win, we all win. That's usually how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. I love entrepreneurship.
That's me.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so cool. And I love entrepreneurship. And I guess in a way, when you had your agency, you were an entrepreneur, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I had a handful of employees. We kind of go up and down. Like we went through the economic crash back in 2008.
Right.
We were doing well over $1 million a year in revenue. It's not bad and we focused a lot on design work. We did a lot of, I'm trying to think you're in Charleston. Is there a Wegmans? I don't think there's a Wegmans supermarket. Do you guys have one?
There's not, but I saw that you worked with Wegmans, and I was born and lived the first 12 years of my life in Syracuse, New York.
Oh, just next door.
Yeah, I saw you in Rochester.
East of me. Yeah, I'm upstate.
I love Wegmans, and I moved to Charleston from Philly about 5 years ago, and they were just kind of popping up around the Philly area when I moved.
Yeah.
But every time I see one on a ride home or something, I always stop and just get something there. I love Wegmans. But
Wegmans is funny. If you're a local boy to upstate New York, they're based in Rochester. That's where their headquarters are. Right. But my wife is South African. We used to live in South Africa. And when this is in my late 20s, and we were in Cape Town, and I'd get homesick. I don't know why, because Rochester's gray and snowy, and upstate New York.
I don't miss the snow at all.
Yeah, in Cape Town, beautiful beach city. But I sometimes had these dreams, and the dream I would have when I was homesick was going to shop at Wegmans. How messed up is that?
I get it.
That's what I was homesick for.
I get it.
My firm, just as an example, we rebranded their whole organic line. We created a whole system. This is a handful of years ago, but you go into a Wegmans now, and all that work emanates from the branding work that my firm did back in the day. So Fisher Price Toys, Bird's Eye Foods, we did a lot of that kind of work, packaging, branding, and so on. But yeah, it was a full-on entrepreneurship gig. It was cash flow and employees and all that jazz.
Employees are always the most difficult element. I have like 15 or 16, and a lot of them have to do like packaging and shipping and like those type of fulfillment of embroidery and printing and just like kind of like hourly jobs. And those are always the tough ones, because you get people who are likely to miss and not show up and it might not be their career. And you're just kind of always working with that. But it takes a little bit of just, you gotta, I have someone not showing up today and it's like, it kind of throws your day off, but you got to stick with it. But I'm imagining, so I think that type of business is so interesting, right? Because we have never hired any type of outside branding or marketing help with our company. And I think my main company it's United Monograms. It's a girls' clothing company.
Yep.
And my fiance does a lot of like the look of it, and I do a lot of the like business side of it. And we know our customers really well, but it's so funny to think about hiring someone to help with marketing because I don't know, I've never done it before. So when you said you do designing and packaging for Wegmans, like they hire you, and then what? Do you like send them like a few fonts and a few different like looks for different things, or how exactly like do you go into a business and help with their branding and marketing from your perspective?
Yeah. So back in the agency day, I minored in design, but I never fancied myself a designer. I'm more of a strategic thinker. And a lot of branding to me is that deeper strategy. It's the thinking, it's solving those kinds of problems. And I'll touch on that in a second. Then I had a team of designers and other people like developers and videographers and so on. So we would go in, like for instance, with Wegmans, this is back in the day before Fiverr. So, we charge them a chunk of change and we go out and do a lot of research. Because at the time, organic food was just coming out of its hippie phase where it was becoming more mainstream. And moms were like, the research was showing like moms want to care for their families, and getting organic food was a way that they could make sure their families were being taken care of well when they shop. But a lot of the old organic branding was very crunchy. It was just all over the place. And Wegmans didn't have a unified look that was on brand for their value proposition. So we did a ton of research. We evaluated what they had, and then we went out and got branding examples, packaging. We had a conference room, kind of the war room, and the walls were just plastered with fabrics, materials, fonts, images, packaging, labels, just everywhere. It was almost like a deep dive, a creative deep dive. And out of that, we tried to develop, what is Wegmans' value proposition and what are the ways that organic's being communicated. So we went through a whole process and we involved the client in that. So that was very integrated, where we didn't just go do a bunch of work, come back and say, ta-da, what do you think? We help them through the thinking process. What's the brand vision, for organic? What's the value proposition? What's its promise? What's its personality? Once you figure all that stuff out, then you can get into the design. Because if you know that the brand is supposed to be energetic, friendly, and easygoing, let's just say then you can say, okay, well, what fonts, what images, what colors communicate that?
So Wegmans has their overall branding, and then this was for the organics. Like, so is that like a section inside the grocery store?
Well, initially it showed up in a section, but now you'll find organic integrated throughout the whole company. And you go anywhere in the store and you'll just see organic. And the system had to work wherever you were, whether you're picking up a package of hamburger or you're getting some pasta noodles, dry goods, or whatever, you had to know like, oh, this is organic. So we had to have a system, and it had to be flexible. The solution that we had to come up with had to work across a bunch of packages that we hadn't seen yet. So to like give us a system that we can then internally apply. Like, let's say they develop a new brand line of herbal tea. Well, we need a system that we can then just take. They don't have to keep coming to us because they'd spend hundreds of thousands a year. They'd rather use their own employees. So we create the whole system. We got paid really well for that, but then they can take that system and apply it. They'd still come back for help. It wasn't like they never called us again, but that was just an example.
And how do they like measure success of like how well you guys did helping them brand?
Yeah, I think
sales?
I think they're looking at sales. Like, is there an increase in sales? Are people asking for it? When they advertise it, like, because once you create a unified brand, people start to identify this as kind of a whole. They go, oh, this is organic. Where before it was very, like I said, that kind of hippie feel, like every package looked different.
Right.
It was just all over the place.
It's just funny because it seems like a hard thing to measure to me. Like, how are people perceiving? Is it more hippie, or now is it more family? And like, it's hard to have a metric for like the feelings of a brand. And I think that is why you probably said that you would work with companies that are from 10 to 200 million in revenue, because if we change our logo on our website, we don't know if that makes a difference, but like if
Mhm.
we run an ad and we can track the return on the ad spend, how much money it made, like that is much more tangible. But that doesn't mean that the branding and changing the logo on the site isn't important, because it is. But it's
Yeah.
just harder to measure. And I think when companies get to a certain level, they have the luxury of being able to
Yeah.
really, really think about those things. And yeah, we're like we're like 5 or 6 million in sales this year. So I feel like we're like getting toward the point where we have to maybe
Sure.
think about that at some point. And it sounds fun. It's fun. It's fun. I feel
It
like.
is fun. And I'll throw a couple things out there to your point. Like you said, well, it sounds like you work with these companies because you can track things easier. One of the reasons I like to work, and I say 10, the lower end 10, and I'll just be transparent for your audience and for you. So I go 10 to 200 million. First of all, I want to work with the owner. Once you get into like a big publicly traded company, even if it's a small cap, if you get into a publicly traded company, you're not going to work with an owner. You're going to work with the CEO at best. And usually you're working with a chief marketing officer. You're working with a manager of some sort. I love working with entrepreneurs. Now I work with their staff. So let's say you hired me. I'd still work with your people. It's not like you and I only, but at least I want to talk to the decision maker, because if I help Sean Lowery grow, I help him scale, then I'm helping you help your community, your family, your employees. So for me, that's just a personal thing. It's like, I want to work at the coal face. I want to be right there where the magic happens. So that's why I do that. The lower end, the 10 million, that was more of a decision for me coming out of my design agency, because I knew as a consultant my value, and I wanted to make sure that the people I worked with could afford me. So
Right.
I do have some clients that are under 10, but I know there's kind of like if someone says, "Hey, Mike, I want to hire you," I'm just making up. These are fake numbers.
Okay.
And I go, "Okay, great. That's going to be 100K." Well, if you're running a $2 million business, 100K is like a lot. That hurts.
Yeah.
But if you're at 10 and I'm like, "Look, if you pay me 100K, I think I can drive 3 million in revenue." You're like, "I think I can make that happen."
Right.
So it's just kind of a soft math for me. If somebody knocks on the door and says, "Hey, Mike, we're 2.5 million and we're trying to drive some revenue, monthly revenue," I could say, "Yeah, we could do that. I can do that pretty effectively, and it doesn't need to cost an arm and a leg." But
right.
That's why the lower end is 10. Just I'm trying to
makes sense. It
makes
perfect sense.
Me. Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, I like it, and that's fun, and it's cool that you've got to a point where it's about money, but like also what you love, and what you love is working with entrepreneurs, and like it just makes you happier. I'm getting the vibe that it's just you like the feel, you like the feeling of just like being with like the owner who started the business, who's just like thinking about all these things like from an entrepreneur level, and that is a fun place to be, I feel like. And
it is. And I feel like, nothing against a marketing manager, but everybody's got different goals. So the marketing manager is trying to drive revenue for the company. He's trying to work with he or she work with their budget. But they're also thinking about their career. Like, I don't want to take a risk.
Right.
Mike's suggesting this, it seems kind of risky. Like, what if I get in trouble? Like, so but an owner's like, "Oh, I love this. This is risky, but this is so, like they're at the place where they don't, I just like working with the folks that can make those decisions. So I love like some of my clients, the larger clients, $60 million client. I talk with the owner on a regular basis. We meet face to face. But I'm also working with his team. I'm working with his product managers. I'm working with his marketing director. But at the end of the day, I answer to the owner. I can bring something to the owner and say, "Here's an opportunity," that maybe the marketing manager would say, "I like it, but I'm not really in a position to make that call."
Right.
The owner can say, "Let's do it."
Yeah. I've heard from many smart people across the last couple of years that like one of the worst things that happens with big companies is you get people in positions who then are only worried about their own success, and that hurts the overall big picture of the company. So I always keep that in mind as I grow my company, to kind of keep the attitude of worry about the company over like your own personal thing.
I found that, we worked a lot, like, so with the privately owned businesses, what I found is the managers and the people underneath the owner are usually pretty good about being invested in the success of the company and deferring to the owner. They're like, "Look, I want everyone to be whole." So but I find in the big, like the Kodaks of the world, it's a lot of whose
stock just popped like 1,000,000% or something.
Well, yeah, because they're getting this huge loan to go into pharmaceuticals. Yeah. But which, for Rochester, I'm curious to see how that turns out. But
interesting.
I'm rooting for them. They've frustrated me for years, but so I'm glad to see them try to innovate a little bit, kudos. But you get into like, I remember back in the day, we'd do some work for Kodak. We'd send a design over. It's a $3,000 job. This is not like a big job.
Okay.
And literally 20 different people have to chime in. It's all CYA, tweak this, do that. And it's like, I think that's the dynamic that you're referring to, where people are more worried about their income and paycheck than they're about the success of the company.
That's not a good. I feel like it's not a good thing. But I mean, Kodak clearly had that, and that from working with them. And aren't they famous for not innovating to get the digital camera, and basically being at the top of the game, and then having other companies innovate and they didn't innovate? Isn't that kind of their story?
No, you're 100%. That's right. Kodak actually developed the technology that drives digital cameras. The camera that I'm using right now, Kodak invented that chip, the technology for that chip. And then they go, oh my God, if we put this out here, our film business will go. And they were making bucket loads of money on film. So they just parked it on a shelf. Well, meanwhile, you know what happens? Like, just because you put it on a shelf doesn't mean the world says, oh, well, we might as well just wait.
Right. So they were trying to cover their ass in the short term, as opposed to giving the best product to their customer, which is what business is all about. They got lost.
You got it, man. That's 100%.
That's the lesson. That's funny that you worked with them and saw that firsthand.
That's why I say I drag them. I used to drag them a lot because they'd frustrate the heck out of me. It's like, why are you guys so like this? But on the other hand, culture, like, what was your strength? Like, maybe the fact back in the 1800s or early 1900s when they started, their conservative, smart, slow growth mentality was great, because it dominated the world eventually. But after a while, it became a liability. It's like, you got to change with the times.
Yeah. So that's a good lesson and you see the big companies like Amazon doing that now. It's just always innovating. And even if they have to hurt themselves in the short term, that seems to be the smart thing to do, obviously.
Yeah.
So you're like your YouTube channel, right? Like, you talk about all different types of topics, which I love. Like, it's as I started my entrepreneurship podcast, like, I feel like entrepreneurship's a little bit like nutrition. There's only so many things you can talk about as far as like have a positive mindset, and there's a lot of details, but sometimes just fun to talk about like the current events and different things that are going on. So like, what is your strategy with your YouTube channel? Are you trying to just do it for fun? Are you trying to get a lot of viewers and make revenue from that? Or are you trying to like have it be for clients where it's like, hey, look at my channel, or a little bit of both?
Man, that question is so to the heart of what I've wrestled with for years. So, because on one hand, as a marketing guy, I feel like, well, you got to use your channel to market to these CEOs and executives. On another level, no human being is one dimensional. Like, I put all my effort into helping these companies, but there are other elements to who Mike Gastin is. And the problem is when you brand your company, like my company is Mike Gastin Limited. That's the corporation, right? That's the brand. I'm the brand.
Right.
So when you do that, you got to ask yourself, well, how much am I going to put out there publicly and how much not? But I had kind of an epiphany. I did this commentary on the Cybertruck when it came out from a branding perspective. And I said, hey, I think this is marketing genius. I think it's a masterstroke, and here's why. And that might be how you found me, but my channel, I'll say, blew up. I went from a few hundred subs to like 11,000
You almost
subs.
1 million views on that video.
Yeah, it's like 800 and almost 900, 850 or something.
That's huge.
Yeah, and it was just quite an experience. It was my 15 minutes of fame.
Nice.
But what I realized is when I started looking at because once you get a little larger, YouTube gives you demographic information, and I saw that like my big core audience is males between the age of say 25 and 44. Man. And where my heart is, like, I'm as you can tell by looking at me, I'm only 22. No, I'm in my early 50s. And I'm like, my heart is like, when I was a young guy, I kind of wished I had somebody that would show me the ropes or help me. Like, I didn't have a mentor. Now, part of that's my own fault because I was so focused. Like, if someone offered to help, I probably would have said, oh no, I got it. I was just a knucklehead that way. But looking back, it's like, it would have been great to have a mentor. So I'm not trying to be anybody's mentor, but I just want to help younger guys. Not just, like, I think entrepreneurship is part of the package, but how do you live life on your own terms? Because life is conflict. You know, you're always in some and not always hostile, like hand-to-hand combat, but like conflict. You're battling for clients, you're battling a boss, you're trying to overcome debt. You're like, all these things you're doing.
Yes.
And so I thought, I want to help anybody, male or female, but kind of my heart is, I want to help young guys live life on their own terms. And so a lot of that's entrepreneurship. A lot of that's like, how do you get into your own business? Some of it's perspective. So I want to unpack a brand. I want to unpack media, because I feel like if I can equip guys to do that, I can inspire them and help them live their dream. Right. You know how hard being an entrepreneur is, But on
It's
the other
so
hand,
hard.
would you want a different life?
No, like I always say, and I've learned this from smart people like you that I've listened to, who is funny. Like I don't really have a mentor myself, but I feel like I have so many just from podcasting and
Yeah,
stuff like that,
that's
which is a
awesome.
great about this age. But I always say the worst thing that could ever happen to a person is like winning the lottery, because
Yep.
you have all this money and you can have anything you want and you think you're going to be fulfilled. But no, I never want to retire. I never want to do nothing. I hate doing nothing because it
Yeah.
sounds great, especially I can understand from someone who hates their job. They just want to go to a beach and relax. But what I say is you go to the beach, you relax, and then within 48 hours, you're going to be like hungover and have a sunburn and be bored out of your mind. And then your life won't be fulfilling. So
Yeah. Yeah. There's only
having
so much that you can do.
exactly. And people need, and I've learned this, like, and I think this is the niche that you're talking about, like young men like me that, one of the most important things to know and learn is just that you need something to do. You need something to have progress towards to like
Right.
make you happy. That's like how the human soul is wired. And
100%.
I've learned that, and
100%.
I love that. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that, and it needs to be repeated.
Right.
And then the other thing that I like that you do too, which I do a little of, is with current events and things, like kind of if you have that perspective on how to think, and then these things are happening, it's like
Mhm.
now these things are happening. This is how you would think about the thing that's happening with this current perspective, and that kind of freshens up that perspective, which is cool. Which is why, like, I think you've probably got into talking about some current events and stuff like that.
Well, I appreciate that. And, it does. So, to your first question, I had to come to the point where I'm like, look, I have to live a more integrated life. I can't I don't want to just put this polished package mic out there. And so having a consultancy and knowing who I want to work with, there are some private business owners that are going to go, I don't like that guy. And that's okay. I don't need to have 1,000 clients. I need to have 4 to 10. I mean, I just hired my first employee, my eldest son, who's got a degree in economics,
Cool.
joined me in April 1st. He's been working with me doing some content strategies, just been phenomenal. So I've got my first employee. I'll probably hire another one, but I need 5 to 10 clients at the most, and I'm banging it. So I need to find entrepreneurs, even if they're guys that are older than me, guys that are 60, guys that are younger, 48, whatever, that say, I align with the way this guy sees the world. Because business is personal. Anybody that says to you, oh, it's not personal, has never owned a business. I've had people kind of screw me over, right? And they go, oh, it's nothing personal. It's just business. I'm sorry. And I'm like, yeah, you've never had to make payroll. You've never had to look at employees who are having a hard time with their life and say, how can I help them? Or you've never had to sit somebody down and deal with some of the problems that come with owning a business. So it's personal.
I try not to make business personal but I guess, yeah, I can see what you're saying.
I don't mean to say oh, Sean, you need to be hanging out after hours and going to church with do that if you want to, but with your employees. I'm just saying there's a personal aspect to business. If you're an owner, this is part of who you are. It's in your soul. And this is how you get fulfillment out of life. That's personal. Like if it were strictly business, it would just be about the money. Now, I'm sure you want to make money, and you have to make money, right? But at the end of the day, you're not measuring your happiness by how much money, I'm guessing. You're measuring your fulfillment by other things.
Yeah. I mean, like the growth of the business, which does correlate with money. But yeah, it's just like I've had some people that I really like, some employees. And it's funny. I think one of a different thing that I might have dealt with that maybe you haven't in the ad agency world is, which I mentioned before, is like these hourly workers, like packers and shippers, pay them like $14 an hour. And like, there's some people that I really like, and they're just, their numbers are so low, and they've missed a certain amount of days. Yeah. And I really like this person, but I'm like, it's a tough spot to be in where it's like, we need you to be at 50 an hour. You're at 28 an hour. And in the past month, you've missed 11 days. And every time someone misses it, like kills our production. And I like this person, but it's like, that's what if I were to let that person go, which is a hard thing to do, because then you have to find someone to replace them and train them. But I would say to him, it's not personal, and it's really not. Right. It's really not.
Right.
But
I think on the other hand, and I think it's just how you define the word personal.
Yeah.
Like I've been in situations where I've had similar. So college educated person, designer, comes in with a great portfolio, but when he's working with us, his work output, his conceptual work is terrible. His output's lazy. 4:55, he's walking out the door while the senior team's staying late to get a job done. So you work with this person for 6 months. You try to get them to do better. You want to help them grow. He was in his late 20s.
Of course.
Eventually, when I sat him down to let him go, I told him, look, you don't have what it takes to work at the firm, but the reason I'm letting you go isn't because you're not good enough. I'm hoping, because I think you have what it takes. I'm hoping this experience of being let go is a wake-up call for you, because I want you to thrive. So your place isn't with us right now, no big deal, but I believe there's a good place for you. And just keeping you here isn't doing you any favors, doesn't do my team any favors. So the personal aspect is I want the best for you, and that means I have to let you go. It's like if you have a kid, you gotta correct your kid at times. You have to punish them sometimes, otherwise they'll just grow up to be this jerk,
right?
And it'll be your own fault. So but you're right. I totally get it's not personal. I'm not trying to be mean to you, but I'm trying to help you. Right. And this is the only thing left. But I hear you.
And that's something I always think about and struggle with, is like being nice versus being mean. I'm naturally a nice guy, and like if someone isn't performing, I'm like, all right, what thing can I do to make them perform better? I've tried being nice like a million times. Like, should we try some type of basically like negative reinforcement versus positive reinforcement? It's always tough to balance. It's always tough to balance.
Do you find, just real quick, because when I had my team, because I'm an entrepreneur, I never, as a young guy, I never wanted people to I never want anybody to tell me what to do, because I like to be free. And if a boss came to me and said I wasn't doing a good job, in my mind, it's like, oh, I totally failed. Like I totally failed. As an owner, I never wanted to tell people what to do, because I don't like being told what to do. But I realized, I don't know if you experienced this, but I realized there are a lot of people that just need me to tell them, hey, Bob, this is what I need from you. And they go, oh, okay, no problem. I never was like that. I was like, this guy's in my shorts. But like, do you feel that way? Do you project the way that you see entrepreneurship and so on onto your employees? Or are you good with
not on those? Like, there's different levels of employees, and I've just hired my first operations manager.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks. And that's been a whole new experience, because I'm used to always managing like people who do want to be told what to do. And I do tell them what to do. And I mean, you're shipping packages all day, and there's different things you can do. You can put the labels here or here, and like that might be a preference, but I know that this way is faster. So I'll let them have a little bit, depending on their personality, I'll let them have a little bit of freedom. But I mean, overall, the job is not that much freedom. I tell you what to do, and they like to be told what to do. Sometimes, I mean, each person you have to deal with their personality, but the job is kind of set up where you have to tell them exactly what to do, and they do like that. But it's funny, with the operations manager I've hired, that's a whole different world. That is, I've had to purposely. I wanted to teach him how to do each thing when he came in, and he came in, and because I'm like, first you just learn how to do everything, and then you can start to manage it all. And on his first day, he came in, I was ready to show him everything, and he just had a whole different idea about how to do it. He was like, I'll learn this stuff eventually. I'm going to figure it out. So like, it's been about 4 or 5 months, and we're just getting into a groove, but I had to definitely step back and not micromanage and kind of let him do his thing, which was frustrating when there were certain results that weren't happening that needed to be done. So I'm like, when are we going to get to the point where you can run this thing? Yeah. I'm not micromanaging. And he's like, well, sometimes you do micromanage. So like, that has been something that I'm as a young person, I'm learning with that. And one thing I've had to learn how to do is just sometimes just shut up and go into my office, and just, if things aren't perfect, that's okay. Like, it's going to have to, and I've struggled with that, because I can be an intense guy, and I do know the way to do the right things. But I also hired someone to make it better. So I have to be open to other ways of thinking and other thoughts. Yeah. So
that's one of the hardest.
It's interesting.
I think one of the hardest things is going from that. It's a small business that you started and you're doing everything, or maybe you and your fiance, it's all hands on, maybe it's a bedroom or a garage. Now you've got, you're coming up on 20 employees, like you're growing. And so you as the owner, your role is changing. And I think that transition is hard. I think once you get through it, it's easier. Right, it's that letting go. Do you ever read, is it Michael Gerber, The E-Myth Revisited?
No,
you ever hear that?
No, but I saw you had a YouTube video about it. I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
Yeah, I mean, the whole premise is just, as you grow, you have to learn to work on your business instead of in your business. And a lot of people struggle to do that. I mean, you're doing it. You're already doing it. I'm
right in it. I'm right in the thick of that moment of my life.
But it's hard.
My fiance struggles with it more than me, because she's great at the operational stuff, like, because we've always had to just get it done, lay this stuff out,
Yep.
get this stuff done. Now someone else is doing it. Like, she has to teach them instead of doing it for them.
Yeah.
And like for like 6 months, we've been going through this phase, and it's healthy. It's how you, it's
Sure.
and it's required I want to grow to a huge business. And if I want to get there, if we want to get to 100, 200 employees from 15, it's required. And I know that, and I knew it going into it, and it's still hard, even
It's
knowing
painful.
it. It's painful.
You're giving birth to something. I mean, that's kind of a funny analogy, but it's painful in that transition period stuff. But on the other end, you're going to have this amazing child that you've brought into the world that's going to get stronger and bigger, and eventually doesn't need you to, spoon feed it everything.
Yeah.
But that's it. It's real.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Being a former upstate New Yorker, central New Yorker, and then I guess we'll call Philly mid-Atlantic states. My wife and I love Charleston. We've been there a number of times. We talk about maybe relocating at some point. How do you like Charleston?
Love Charleston.
Really?
First,
what do you love about it?
All right. So the most basic, simple thing is the weather. I mean, it's hot. It's very hot, but growing up in upstate New York, there's pictures of me on Easter with snow up above my knees in April. So I do not miss the snow, and it's just great weather. And honestly, like, I'm kind of in my own little world. Like, so everyone says that it's nicer and slower down here. And,
you're running a business. So
I don't necessarily see that. Like,
you're a mad lad. Yeah,
exactly. But there's definitely a hospitality environment when you're downtown. It's very friendly, and
we love it.
So it's like, I feel like a lot of people go there like on vacation, but one of the problems, the reason why it's not massively growing for people my age is because all the jobs for like 25, 26, 27-year-olds would be like a waiter, or there's not a lot of
service.
There's not a lot of jobs for like up and coming business people. There's some, and it's growing, but that's so you get a lot of people that might be older that have their work, whether they're retired or whether it's remote, that it's a good environment for. But it's just a nice, chill attitude. People
what
are very
part of
friendly.
town are you in?
I'm in James Island, which is like seven minutes from downtown.
It's very central. Yeah, we looked at James Island. We stayed there in an Airbnb a couple times.
Okay.
It's really central.
Yeah. And then it has the road that goes right down to Folly Road.
Folly Beach.
Folly Beach.
Yeah, man.
Folly Beach has a cool attitude. It's very like
it does.
There'll be a very big, beautiful beach house, and then right next to it there'll be a little shack and like
it's got great. It's great. I like Sullivan's Island too, just because it's so small and quiet. There's little pizza shop, grab a beer on a Sunday evening.
Yeah, I feel like Sullivan's Island's like, I don't head over that way too much. That's like up north. And that's a little more like fancier, or like
it's a little ritzier.
It's a little ritzier than Folly.
You could drop a couple million to get a place on Folly Beach too. I mean, but you're right. I love that Folly Beach has this like millionaire home and then this little shack right next to it. And everybody's cool with that. It's not like they're bulldozing the shacks. It's just like, it's just got this fun.
I would bulldoze the shacks if I were in charge.
Yeah, well,
but I'm not. And then
you'll get there someday.
Yeah, right. But no, moving was such a great thing for me because I have like so many friends and family in like Philly, and I just kind of made a bold move with me and my fiance. We're like, let's just move to like a up and coming beautiful city, and just be able to focus on work all the time, which is kind of the
now. How did you move your business? Because the business must have been going at the time. How did you?
It was going. We just uprooted it. I mean, we only had like 2 machines or something, and we brought them in a U-Haul truck. And really, the real business growth started with the machines and the employees here. I never had an employee there, so we probably had like 100,000 in revenue, like over like a year and a half, and then we came here and really started like ramping it up.
So you were paying the bills, but it was really the two of you just working, so you could work anywhere.
Yes, we could work anywhere. We could work anywhere.
Cool.
For the first like week we lived here, we shipped some packages out of our apartment, but we knew we had to get a building first.
Yeah.
So
how long have you been there now?
5 years, 5-6 years.
Wow, congratulations. That's a lot of growth in 5 years.
Yeah, it is. The business is going great. And we're actually looking at getting a 22,000 square foot building, which I could barely afford, but there's like an SBA loan, and it's the next big risk, and we might have to sell our house. And and that's where I get my happiness from. I'm always trying to grow, and I'm a little crazy. I'm a little wild, but
I haven't noticed that from your podcast.
You haven't noticed?
I love you and Patrick Bet David getting into his no sex for. I mean, you hit him like podcast opens up and you're like, so I heard you had no sex for 17 months. I'm like, you just hit him in the mouth. Right? And he handled it great. Like he was happy to talk about it.
He talked about it before. So I knew like,
yeah.
But I like to hit him with interesting topics. And
I was worried. I'm like, what have I said in one of my podcasts that you're going to throw at me that I'll be embarrassed about? But so far, so
maybe we'll get there. Maybe we'll get there. But it's funny though, because I basically have, it's funny because to get back to your YouTube channel, right? And I think it's so funny that you said that you like have always struggled. Is this, what's my point of this? Like, am I trying to get clients? But you were saying you have one brand, and I get that. But it's funny for me because I actually have my podcasting and my YouTube, which I do really for fun. And I think it'll pay off one day. And I just enjoy it also. But my United Monograms brand is a whole different brand. So like anything I say here, like I feel like my listeners of this show are not my customers of my product. So it's a whole different audience. So I kind of have two things. So for me, it's not connected. But your YouTube channel, like you're talking about interesting things and you're trying to get an audience but also it's like your business card, right? For a potential client.
Yeah, in many ways.
They go search you.
In many ways, yeah.
Yeah. But
I've had situations where a client, guy in his late 50s will say, oh, I saw this video you did. And I was, I get a little like, oh no, what's he going to think? Because I'm not making content. But on the other hand, I'm talking about things like free markets, people being wealth creators, that those kinds of owners are like totally into. Now I might be speaking to a different group.
Like that stuff is non-controversial.
No, that's why they get out of bed. They're just further down the road now, but that's what drives them.
Right.
And, I'll make some videos specifically for LinkedIn. That's where I do more of my kind of business development. So in my mind and kind of where I'm going with my business, I've got the consultancy that I'm growing, and that's more serving the clients like I talked about. Then I've got this other more content business where I want to serve this younger population and help them get into business. But they all overlap.
And is that a revenue generating thing for you? The content?
It will be. So like the YouTube channel throws off of a couple of dollars. At some point, I'll probably put some products out there, whether they're courses or, I haven't gotten to the point where I'm sure what I want to do with that.
Right.
But yeah,
it's hard to monetize that, which for a lot of people, it makes it really hard to put a lot of effort and energy into it. And that's why for me, like, I can be free. I don't care because I'm not trying to make money because I have my business. I have my business and they're not really connected. So it's like a separate thing. And it just allows me, I don't know. I've never made a penny of revenue from any podcasting thing. And I do it every week and it takes a lot of effort. I have an employee, Brandon.
It does. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of, that's why I have Brandon that really helps me. Cause the editing, do you do all your own like editing and all that type of stuff?
I do now. And as my consultancy grows, my team grows, I'll probably bring on, because right now I can put easily 10 to 13 hours a day. And I put weekends into the consultancy. There's just so much work to do, which is a blessing. I mean, in the economic environment we're in right now, I'm glad for it. I'm grateful.
Right.
But at some point, I'll probably start farming out some of the post-production and so on. I like doing it right now, but at some point I'll get some help.
And then I'm sure you're thinking like, oh, well, now I got to literally pay someone. How much worth it is this?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah. But that Cybertruck video that went viral, like what happened there? Like, did that all happen in like a day and you had no idea? You said it was your 15 minutes of fame. Like, did you do anything to boost it or promote it? Was it organic?
No. So what happened is I hit YouTube pretty hard in 2018. I kind of jumped in. I'm going to grow this channel. I put all kinds of content. I was just learning. If you look at and please don't, but if you look at my early videos,
that's what I always say too.
Yeah, please don't. They're kind of goofy.
It's awesome.
But everybody has to start somewhere.
Right.
And so I kind of got to, two things happened. I got a little discouraged. Like I was doing a video every week at least. And I did this for months and months. I was getting hardly any stroke. It's like I got 35, subscribers.
Yep.
And so at the end of 2018, I'm like, also, I put so much focus into this that I've not been giving my consultancy the attention it needs. 2019, I had to shift gears a little bit just to make sure that I was, keeping my business, the income going.
Right.
I don't spread very well. And then, but then towards the end of 2019, I hadn't put a lot of content out, but I was looking at my analytics. I'm like, the videos that seem to do really well aren't these how-to, like here, I'm going to teach you how to do this. It's more my insight. People seem to like my insight. I'm talking relatively well. Like one video might get 50 and the other video might get 200-300 views. I'm like, well, the ones that get 200 or 300 views are me commentating on a brand mistake or a company's, behavior.
Right.
So so I started looking like I should do more of these commentary. They're fun to do. It demonstrates my expertise.
And then it's kind of current events,
current events, right? But kind of with a branding business.
Right. Perfect.
So like I just noticed a couple of days before that the Cybertruck came out. So I'm like, well, let me just take a look. What's going on with the Cybertruck? I'm not a Elon Musk fan or anything like that. And I love Elon, but I'm just saying I wasn't like a Tesla guy. And as I'm watching this and I was seeing everyone's reaction, I realized and I started watching like Marquez Brownlee and different people, their take on it.
Yeah.
I realized that I was seeing something that no one else was seeing. And so I'm like, well, here you go. So I did the research like on the Saturday. And I think I'm like, okay, I realized I should do commentary. The Cybertruck had come out on the Thursday before. So I sat Sunday, I shot the video and I was up to like 2 a.m. editing. And the video is not great. Like the audio, we're in this old 1800s house. I've got to do some sound work. Like there's some echo, like it's not perfect, but I sat till like 2 a.m. and then I published it. I went to bed and I was hoping like maybe to get 500 views. I would have been thrilled. I mean like, oh wow, look at it, blew up. I think what happened, so just kind of slow for a little while, but somebody on Reddit, in one of these Reddit investing Tesla groups, said, hey, look at this guy's video. And I think, because if I look at the data, all this outside information, all these outside viewers poured into YouTube. And then the algorithm said, oh, this is important, and just started surfacing it to everybody. And it took off. And this was cool. So this was before Thanksgiving, but like all through Thanksgiving dinner, I remember because I tried to, I thought, if everyone's giving you attention, you need to answer everybody, comment on everything, even the trolls. Like I try to get right in there and go toe to toe with everybody.
I love getting trolls.
It's fun.
It's
My
awesome.
wife is like, doesn't it bother you when people no, it's fun. Like
it's better than a ghost town of comments.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah.
But so that's the story. So I just had an insight that a certain kind of video did better. I had no expectation that this would blow up like this. And now it's a double-edged sword though. So what happened is my channel blew up and it's like, look at that. I'm on the map. I'll hit 100,000, but what I realized afterwards is the people that joined the channel, a lot of them just were joining because they thought I was a Tesla guy.
Right.
And so I'm always gaining new subscribers, but I'm always losing those old subs. Every time I put a marketing video out, every time I put some commentary that's not Tesla related, I might lose 10, 20 subs.
Interesting.
So I'm kind of in this weird place where I'm gaining and I'm kind of holding, I'm at like 10,940 to 60. I just go up and down, but I'm stuck. So I'm flushing through some of these people that are like, oh, I didn't sign up for this. I thought this was a Tesla guy.
I get it. I mean, just keep being yourself. Would you switch to being a fully Tesla guy just because you had that audience?
No,
I mean, that wouldn't be you.
The brand.
Right.
No,
that wouldn't be you.
That goes back to the brand. I want the brand to be authentic.
Right.
And quite frankly, at 53, I don't mind working hard, but I want to work hard in something I love. And I love Tesla, what's going on, and Elon, what's going on. I think it's fascinating, but not enough to make that my life.
Right.
I just don't want to owe anybody that.
I get that.
Yeah.
And I would just say keep being yourself, because I love all your videos, and like just take the Tesla fanboys, and if you lose some, you lose them. Like it's just
and I've
be
done
happy
some
it happened.
follow-up. I did a follow-up a couple Tesla videos,
but
I like doing it
when you have good perspective on it. So what was the unique? I have a Tesla, and I love Elon Musk and all that stuff. What was your unique branding point that you made in that video?
Yeah. So essentially what I was saying is it was a branding masterstroke, and what, I covered a couple points, but essentially I think the position that people were missing, they're looking at the design going, oh, it's ugly, it's bizarre. What I was saying is Ford comes out with a new truck. They drive it down the road. Yeah, you might notice. You might not even, oh, that's a Ford. The Tesla, the Cybertruck was so crazy looking that when these things hit the road, you can't ignore it. When it drives past you, and it will, you can't ignore it. So any reaction is good. There's gonna be a bunch of people that hate it and a bunch of people that just love it, but it's like free advertising. When a Honda Civic goes by, you don't see it.
Yeah. So right, like, and people can watch the video. We'll link it up. But
cool.
That gets to just branding in general, which I want to talk about.
Go for it.
I love like branding is so interesting and so like vague and so like specific and just so like, well, who's good at branding? What is branding? Like, oh, like what is branding to you? Like if someone said, hey, I'm starting a company, I don't know, a t-shirt company, and I need a good brand. Like, where would you start with them about like, what is branding?
Yeah. I love these questions, Sean. People make the mistake in associating the brand with the visual, the logo or whatever. And
I think a lot of
the
people
logo
do
is
that.
part of it.
Yes.
A lot of it, but a brand in its most simple terms. I mean, there's a lot that goes on, but in its simplest terms for your viewers and listeners and the discussion, a brand is a two-sided coin. On one side of the coin is what is the promise that you're making, and the other side of the coin is what is the expectation that your audience, your customers have. So a brand is really, in a lot of ways, what is the promise or what is the expectation? So, you look at something like Tesla. What is the promise that Tesla is making? And I got at this at the video. What is the promise that the Cybertruck is making? Essentially, the promise to the market is you can have the future today. Elon Musk is all about delivering the future. He's all about delivering the future today. We're going to go to Mars. He's all about making the future reality. And the Cybertruck is a manifestation of that brand promise. Like, look, you can drive the truck of the future. That's why it looks so crazy. Now, a lot of people go, well, it looks like that because it's stainless steel and you can't mold it. You have to bend it. And yeah, that's all fine. But Elon is delivering the future today. That's what Tesla and Elon's brand is all about. And so that's why the Tesla fans reacted so positively, because that's the expectation. He's going to put us on the moon.
And that's hard, like advice to give someone just starting in their basement, because like that's their brand, but that's also true. Like he's also smart enough to be able to mass produce. The reason I got a Tesla was because one reason only. I don't care about any of this stuff. I just love the idea of driverless cars so that I can do work while I'm driving.
That's the future though. That's
right.
part of the future.
And I love it. And it's amazing. And I'm never going to have a car that's not driver, like have these features now. But like, that's so hard. It's easy to brand that because it's real,
But I think if we think about, using Tesla, and I'm just guessing, I've not met with Elon. Elon, if you're watching, hit me up, bro.
All right.
I won't smoke a joint with you, Elon, but we can chat. But that said, I think that comes out of who Elon is. And, when I work with my clients, and I think, I'm guessing the same's for you, like we build and do our companies and do the work we do because it comes out of our gut. It's like who we are. And like you asked me, like, hey, would you change your channel to do all Tesla? No. And I think you knew the answer when you asked.
Right.
The answer for me is no, because it's just not who I am. Now, do I want to touch on Tesla? Yeah, but I don't want to just be all Tesla all the time. Right. Now, there are people that's who they are. And so I think the brand has to be authentic to your values and who you are. It doesn't have to be Sean Lowery as the brand, but like who you are, why you get out.
Now you're talking to me, who has a girls' clothing company. Okay. It's not who I am. It's kind of maybe from a little more from who my fiance is. So maybe it's coming from her. And I like that.
Well, what values, are you guys shipping cheap quality clothes to make good margin? If I'm to buy some clothing from your company, what should I expect from that clothing?
Well, our main thing is that this is kind of a Southern thing, but every single thing we sell, our whole business is monogrammed clothing, which means it's a very specific thing, and it has a built-in culture, and it's we ship across the country, but it's really in the South where monograms are very popular. They put them on their bags, on their shirts. So everything we sell is monograms. So that's our niche that we serve, and it's a pretty big market, and we still have room to grow in it. And then, yeah, we're kind of like good prices and pretty regular quality, to be honest. Like we're not like a premium quality high price brand.
What differentiates you guys? Like what about you is why would I buy from you versus somebody else?
Unique products. We're always putting out new designs and new products. We actually created this whole monograms are traditionally embroidered on the front left chest. We had these printers, so now we created the industry for graphic monograms, which is like a pumpkin and a coffee cup with your monogram printed in it. So now,
all right.
So now we sell tons of those, and we always have new ones. Right now we're doing like mom designs and dog mom designs, and we did nurse, and we'll do fall. So we always have like new hot products, and we know what our customers like. And but it's not me. It's not really me.
It is though. I would argue it is, and here's why. what I heard from you at the beginning of the podcast was how you love new stuff. You like to grow. You like to do different things.
Yeah.
Like you're driven to do new stuff, to build things, try new things. You moved from Philly to Charleston. I would argue, this is just like 30 seconds we're talking about this, that your brand promise is something about innovation and always exploring new things and delivering new products. Now, some of those new things might be a flop, some might be good.
Oh, yeah.
So if you were, let's say you did a pet grooming company, let's say you were doing an auto detailing company, let's say, I'm guessing you would bring that drive to always be creating, coming up with new ideas. That's just who you are.
I mean,
you get out of bed to come up with new stuff.
And serve. I have grown to literally love our customers. We have a customer base of United Monograms. They're girls. They're generally in the South. They love fall. They love coffee. I don't love the things that they love because I'm not a girl.
But a pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah, I mean, I do like pumpkin spice actually, but I know them so well. Like, I'll be like in a meeting with our couple of salespeople, and I'll be like, we need more pink coffee designs on this shirt because I know our customers love pink, and I know that this designs do well. I know what day of the year. It's actually August 4th where people start buying pumpkin stuff. Like, I've fallen in love with who our customers are and serving them what they want. And I'm not them, and it's not necessarily me, but I've fallen in love with who they are, and I've got to know them so well that I've been able to run this business so well. But I don't really love monograms. We only sell girls. I can't even wear them. So it's like, I guess I'm giving an example where it's not from me, but it's just me being a business guy, knowing that I have to be consistent and learn to love this customer base over years.
Sure.
And it's kind of like separate from who I am. As like a business like strategy a little bit. So
I understand that, but I still think I totally get what you're saying, and I agree with you. I get, like you're saying, look, this is a business. This isn't just the Sean Lowery Corporation. It's a business.
That's what the podcast is.
Yeah, that's right. But your company is oriented around what you, and I'm assuming your fiance, love doing. So let's say you go, hey, look, I'm not a woman and I don't care about, but I love getting to know them. I love trying to figure out what they want. I love innovating and coming up with new ideas. You could have 10 different monogram companies, and each one will have a different. One will be like, we hand make all our own cloth. It's the highest quality. Another's going to say, we're just the cheapest price. Yeah. That's driven by the person behind the scenes. True. And you're driven by, how do I give my customer the best possible experience? Well, I can serve them really well. I can come up with new concepts. You might sell this company in 5 years and start a different business. Let's say you get into making yachts. I bet you your yacht making company will have the same attitude, which is, I love figuring out what my yacht customers want and building boats that nobody else is building for them. Yeah. Like, I just think that's what drives you. So I told you, that's true. The brand isn't Sean Lowery, but it's informed by your values. That's all.
Yes. And also, like, a lot of people, like in our niche, like Etsy, like they have this little mom and pop thing. Like, no, we want to be like, we're going to get you a pretty good quality product at the best price really fast. And like, if you actually really want something, like, now you're going to get it from us. Like, we're not some little small thing, even though we have been, but I do want to have that attitude of like being big. And
you know, to go back to your original question, I try to make it as simple as possible. It's a promise and an expectation. You know, you go through a whole process. Like, when I work with a client, there's a whole branding strategy process of discovering it, distilling it, articulating it. There are many legs to that, you know, the whole piece that you end up with a messaging platform. But to make it simple, you know, there's a promise that your company makes, and there's an expectation that your market is coming to have. And that's the brand ultimately. Now, there are ways to creatively communicate that. That you can go in lots of different directions,
how important,
but that's gotta be the core.
How important, like you said, I know logo's definitely not everything, but the look of your brand across TV commercials, your website, your social media, like it's important. So like,
it's critical.
Someone comes to you, like, and then, but say I'm sitting there and I'm trying to start a business, and I have my business name up, and I'm sitting there changing fonts. Like, my advice to that person would be like, who cares about the font? But at some point it does matter. So like, from your design element thing, like, what, like, is a cursive font better for like a softer company, and like a hard font better for like a motorcycle company, or like, you know what I mean? Like, how much does that stuff matter? And like,
it matters 100%. And the reason I brought up the visual is the mistake a lot of, even designers, like young designers, not experienced ones, or young business owners will make is they haven't even figured out what the brand stands for. Like you could be a motorcycle company, but there's so many, like I'm a rider, I ride a Triumph.
Yeah.
But you get Harley guys, you get Triumph, you get all these different, you get Ducati.
Right.
Even motorcycles are different. So what you want to do is spend some time in your business. You're right. Like sometimes people get hung up in the early days on all that stuff.
Yes.
But I think they make the mistake of focusing on that first before they even figure out, well, what is it that we're promising?
Right. And
once you know that, then you could figure out colors and fonts.
Exactly. And I think that's actually good advice for any people who are entrepreneurs and they're just starting. They know and understand how important branding is. So they sit there and work on their logo and don't even start getting their audience and getting their
and you got to create the experience first. You got to create the experience first. You know, I it's really interesting. Like Sean, if you were to sell your business at some point, I would imagine that someone's not going to necessarily come and buy it for the equipment or the building, although there's value in the real estate.
There will be.
Let's say you get this up to like a $30 million business. You've got this really well-known brand. I mean, people are just, the biggest asset in your business is actually the brand. It's the market knows your brand and they're like, we want this product. I mean, think of Nike. Yeah. What is Nike's biggest asset? Is it their facilities and their factories? And it's the Nike brand. And yet on most of our balance sheets, you look at your P&L, you look at your balance sheet, the brand doesn't show up.
Right.
It's like one of the most important things you can build because that's equity. It's but at the end of the day, we kind of think of it as an afterthought.
Right.
And I agree with you. I think the key is to start by building your experience and figuring out, well, what is the promise I'm really making, and build that, make it real. Think about the customer. Once you've got that going, you can circle back around and go, okay, well, you can always change a logo.
You can always change it. Exactly. Because you do need to put something in the corner on your website, and you do need a website. So just put something up there and move forward and focus on the customer.
I agree 100%. Yep.
But yeah, the brand's important. Like if I were to sell the company, like I do think the equipment and all that would be important. But I get what you're saying about the brand. But it's funny because also a part of that is like the email list and the customer data.
Oh yeah, that's an asset. It's a huge
asset.
That's
like kind of the brand a little bit, because those people already said that I like this and are part of it. But like that's why I've been wearing this pencil in my ear for 54 episodes.
That's part of the brand.
And like, it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't. It's not everything, but like, I don't know. It's something. You want to know how I thought of that? It was like, there's that one politician, he was on Saturday Night Live, Dave Crenshaw, some Texas guy, but he has
the eye patch.
Eye patch. He has the eye patch. Yeah. And I'm like,
I love
dude,
Dave.
Yeah, I like him too. And but he's known as the guy with the eye patch. And like, it's just and I was like, well, actually, I've always had a pencil in my ear. Even back in college in my fraternity, like picture, I wore a pencil in my ear. It was always kind of like my shtick for some reason. I don't know why. But
I noticed it in your Facebook Live, and I think that's like a little brand element. He's always got the pencil.
Yeah. And I like it. And it's just funny because when you think about branding and you're giving advice to people, like I think it's not something that matters like so much, but it's just a consistency of it, like always being there. And just wearing my pencil in my ear doesn't do anything. Just having an eye patch for that guy doesn't make him a great politician. And obviously he didn't choose to have the eye patch. I think it was from a war.
Well,
it makes you stick out a little bit.
It does. And I think for the viewer, it tells a story. Like one of the things I'm really big in is the power of narrative, brand story. We don't have to get into it right now, but if I look at Dan Crenshaw when he's in an interview, I'm always reminded what this guy did. I look at it and go, this guy's hardcore. Like he lost his eye serving in the military. Now, for all I know, he was back in the mess hall and somebody dropped a knife and it took like, but I see that and I think combat veteran, you can't. So when he's sitting there with an eye patch, I'm like, this guy's a hitter. Like, I don't care what he's saying. Like so that brand element, it communicates a bit of an expectation to me. Like I'm listening to somebody who's been in the shit.
Yeah,
like this is a real deal guy.
That's
and so
true.
That brand, he doesn't choose it. He has to wear it, right? I guess he could put a glass eye.
It's definitely good for him. But not only is it a physical outlier thing that people notice, it also maybe even much more than a stupid pencil tells a little story about him, and that
it does.
Even
it
better.
Totally does.
It's even better.
But I think the pencil says something too. Pencil to me, I look at you with the pencil. I'm like, this is a guy who likes to roll up his sleeves and get work done.
Yeah. It's
like
funny.
He's not some lightweight. He's like, he's a working guy. He's got his pencil.
I'm doing something. I'm like doing something.
Doing something.
Yeah.
And the pencil also represents thinking. Like how many ideas started with a pencil and a napkin? All good ideas start with a pencil somewhere.
It's funny because I literally, for the past 3 years, have never written anything of substance because I love Google Docs. I'll take my phone out, make all my notes in Google Docs. So it's just fun. It's just fun. It's just funny that I don't actually really use it. But at some point I'm going to need to write something down and it's going to really come in handy.
There you go. You'll have it ready.
Oh man. But
good stuff.
But yeah, like so the power of narrative, like that's relating to branding.
Yeah.
Like that is just talk about that.
Sure. Yeah. So I was pausing just 'cause I thought you were about to ask us something else, but yeah, I mean, if you think of brand as a promise or from the customer side, an expectation, if you really want to juice up your brand, you learn to tell your brand story. And so a story is a narrative. And the thing about it is story, like we're, you could say evolved, you could say created, doesn't matter, designed. Human beings are wired to really lock into a story, and something really fascinating happens when you tell a story. So I can give you a bunch of data. I can just say, I got a speeding ticket. It cost me $200. And you go, oh, okay, too bad. Sucks to be you. But if I tell you the story about, oh yeah, it was a beautiful day. I went and picked up my wife after work. We're blowing down the road. Windows are down, the air, like there are parts of my mind as I'm thinking about the story that are firing, as I'm remembering kind of the experience. But there's something fascinating that happens to the listener. There's this neurological sympathy, the same parts of the listener's mind start to fire. You start to experience the story with me. This is why we get lost in a movie. You know, you watch a horror movie, you get scared, or an action movie, your heart's pumping. You read a book even, and you get kind of engrossed. You forget you're even reading. You're just in the story. There's something about the human being where we get pulled into a story, and we have this kind of sympathy that happens where our mind syncs up. So when you learn to tell your brand's promise through the power of a story, a narrative, you do a much better job of getting your listeners to kind of be sympathetic to it. They experience it, engage it on a much different level. And so just narrative is such a powerful tool. And we human beings have been using narrative since the dawn of time. There are these powerful stories that go, Homer and the Iliad and all these, Beowulf that go way back. And there's a reason they're so successful even to today.
Yeah, that's so cool.
It's the reason. I'll just say it's the reason Jesus used parables. I think. I mean, he didn't tell me this. I don't have coffee with him.
Jesus is one of the best branders, marketers, and politicians of all time. I think.
And the cool thing I think about him, I agree with you. You know, he scripture refers to him as the king. So I guess politician's good. He's the king. But the cool thing about him is he's probably the only one that's not a schmuck. Like all of them want to take advantage of us. Jesus doesn't seem to want to take take He just
that's his narrative.
Yeah, and I believe it. But he used parables. He told stories. They were powerful. Like they helped people understand the truth.
Yeah.
And,
so
just use it as an example.
And if you're starting your company and you're thinking of your logo, also think of your narrative, of your story. And what are some of the famous examples of brands with great stories?
One that I like to use, are you familiar with the company Warby Parker? They're like online glasses.
Glasses. Yeah, I know. I know of them.
They do a great job because every story has like a hero. Every story has like a conflict, some inciting event. Usually there's a bad guy of some sort. Yep. Usually there's resolution. The world's a better place. Joseph Conrad and his The Hero with a Thousand Faces kind of unpacks that. It's just fantastic. But Warby Parker tells the stories like, oh yeah, we were three college buddies and we were on some trip and our buddy's glasses got broken on the trip. Like they tell the story about how they got into their business. Well, they tell you that, this is on their website, they found that there's like this kind of eyeglass conglomerate that controls the whole market, and that's why prices are high. So they set up this kind of bad guy. So they have the inciting event where they're like the hero's drawn in. They see that there's a bad guy out there, and then they have to decide, are we going to beat this thing or not? And they decide we're going to take it head on. And so they tell you how they built their company. And then they tell you about how great the world is now that they've broken that conglomerate. And now half the money it's not half, but some of the money they make goes to people in poor countries. Like it's, the sun comes out, the birds chirp, and they do a fantastic job. And so when you read that, you go, I want to be part of that. That's a powerful story. They give me their why. Why did they get out of bed? They've made the world a better place. So that's actually
amazing. And I think that's good advice for people. It's funny because you want your narrative to be true, but like you also but you're also crafting it and how you tell it. And putting a bad guy in there is a great idea. I never thought of that. Like our brand story is kind of like we started in a basement or my mom's basement, and Shelby wanted to get a single at-home embroidery machine. We started doing monograms. Like I need to add a bad guy to that narrative somehow.
Yeah, and the bad guy can be conceptual. It doesn't have to be like
Right.
ABC embroidering. Those guys were jerks to us. It
Right.
could be, we just found like people couldn't get what they wanted, and we thought this isn't right. Like people deserve better. You know, it's like, I'm going to climb that mountain.
Right.
And the
That's
great thing
really
is for the hero in a brand story is the company. Some people advise, oh, you should never be the hero, the customer. In your brand story, you are the hero. Now in your marketing, you might make the customer the hero, but in your brand story, you're the hero. Once the hero beats the bad guy, there's this kind of classic theme that like when you come back to your village, like think of the Hobbit. When he came back to his village, like the world was a better place, but he had this magical thing now that could make the, you know, so you're bringing back something good to the world. You went, you beat the bad guy, and now you're bringing back something special. So cool. And that's kind of part of the story.
That's great. I'm trying to think of like some other companies now that have done that. Like, I don't know, like does Amazon have a brand story? Like Jeff Bezos in his garage or something?
I mean, some of them have origin stories. You know, that's kind of,
I love that though.
I don't know. I mean, I mean, someone will correct me in the comments. Oh, you're an idiot. But I can't think of Amazon's brand story being published anywhere.
Right.
I think Apple's had one for a while. You know, different. I mean, they're not always explicit. Like I think Warby Parker does a great job just putting it out there like a story. Sometimes they're implicit. They're kind of subtly put throughout like a website. Sometimes they're explicit. It's a very powerful tool, and it's underutilized. Like this is one of those things where multi-billion-dollar corporations do this really well. But if you're a $2 million company, you can leverage brand story in such a powerful way, and it's not expensive. You got to figure out your brand. You got to do a good job crafting it, but it's a really powerful tool.
Yeah.
The trick is, in my opinion, it has to be true. You don't want to be guilty of manipulating people. You want to give them something that's true, but you want to entertain them at the same time and like you said, craft it a little bit. Craft it. Right.
Yep. Right.
Yep.
So that's really cool. That's awesome. What else?
Thanks for asking about that.
Yeah. What else is on your mind? You said a couple of things you mentioned before. You said the fallacy of strategic planning. I was interested in that because planning is always important. What's your opinion on that? The fallacy of strategic planning.
The fallacy. So you see this more in bigger companies, but there's this idea, and I talked before about life is full of conflict. So we'll come back to that in a second. Okay. But when you look at the strategic planning, people go, oh, we need to do strategic planning, and they take their company through this process. But planning usually results in control systems, meaning you come out of planning, you make your goals, and you go, okay, here's our budget, here's our plan, here's what we're doing. And I'm not against those things. But like the planning process is a lot of analysis. You break everything down. But real strategy requires synthesis, innovating, coming up with new ideas. And so the reason I say it's a fallacy is the planning process often doesn't result in innovation. The planning process often results in control systems. So you go, we want to grow 3% or 10% this year, you have budgets and so on, but those are all used to control the business. When I mentioned conflict, the problem is the competitive marketplace is conflict ridden. So you can do all the planning you like. It's kind of like, I'm going to get in the boxing ring. And first I'm going to throw a left, this is my left. Then I'm going to throw two rights, uppercut. Like you walk in the ring and your opponent just like punches you right in the gut. Right. Well, then your plan just goes right out the window.
Exactly. Yeah.
So for me, I think that planning is good if it's controlling systems that are not involved in conflict. So you've got machines operating. You want control systems. You want efficiencies. You want that stuff to run like a charm. You want to do that so that you're freed up in the marketplace to be more dynamic, more innovative. So I'm not one to say don't have a plan. I'm big on strategy, but strategy needs to not be hidebound by planning. It needs to be more innovative and creative. That's really what I was getting at. And I think sometimes companies confuse the planning process with innovation and real strategy. And then they get in the marketplace and they're not competitive and they can't figure out why. Yeah.
I mean, planning, I feel like it's definitely overrated. I mean, like, we have a perfect plan from operations level, and then 2 employees don't show up, screws up everything, and then that's why I had to hire an operations manager to kind of get that. And then on a sales level, we kind of have like a vague plan for like a month or two ahead. Like we're gonna run these type of sales so we can get pictures of them and stuff. But then we'll start doing something, it'll be a big dud, and then we have to like balance the sales between our 2 departments. So like one thing takes off. then,
you don't.
so we can't run that another thing for that department because there's already so many orders so we want to run something for over here, so we have to change it. So yeah, and some people might get buckled down by spending too much time planning when it doesn't even matter.
Well, I'll give you an analogy in a second that might illustrate, but one of the things, if you think about the planning process, planning is always based on, well, let's look at what happened last year. Let's break all that down. How much sales did we have? What was successful? What wasn't? You're looking backwards to figure out what's going to happen in the future. You don't know what's going to happen in the future, like you said. You don't know what's going to go on. So,
you really don't.
But here's where I think planning's good. Like, here's a good analogy. Do you ever follow any motorsports, like racing or anything like that?
Not really.
Okay. Well,
I know, I get the idea.
Yeah. So planning and control systems are fantastic for the back of the house, meaning when the driver pulls into the pit, you want your team so drilled, so planned, so controlled that they can take tires off and put them on in 3 seconds and get the driver back out on the track.
Right.
So you want to use all kinds of planning and control systems. You want everything in the garage, the car, the mechanics, the engineering, to be so well thought out and figured out that there are no problems. But you don't want to control your driver, because if he's in turn 3 and he's trying to pass this guy up ahead of him, he's in a fight and he's got 2 other guys behind him trying to pass. He's got to be innovative. He's got to be synthetic in his thinking, fluid. He's got to just be on the fly. If you try to impose some type of control system where headquarters is like, okay, turn left, go through, it doesn't work. And so a lot of companies, though, feel like they've got to put planning systems across everything. It's like, no, you want to keep it on that back end. Like your operations manager should totally have systems in place and process. But when you're out there fighting day to day, trying to win new sales in your marketing team, they got to be free to come up with new ideas, try things, fail, experiment. Yeah. So that's all I'm trying to do.
I love that. I think that's really important to understand for entrepreneurs. What are some of your other just favorite stories of 2020 so far? It's been a wild year, right?
Oh my gosh. It's been nuts. It's really been nuts. 2020 is a mixed bag for me. I mean, the thing about 2020 that I'm concerned about, I guess, is I think we're all thinking of it as like, I can't wait till this is over. This is an anomaly. It's an aberration, and we're going to get back to normal soon. My concern, and I'm not gloom and doom, but my concern is this may become the new normal. And I hate saying that because I've even come out against this whole phrase of the new normal. But I'm wondering if this kind of chaos, if you will.
Are you talking about you're talking about the virus?
It's the virus. I feel like is an example of how we're reacting to things. Like the government just shutting all kinds of stuff down. The way that we're reporting numbers, the way the media is behaving, like nobody trusts anybody anymore.
Right.
We've got riots in the streets. I mean, the government's just printing money. There's just all this stuff happens. Just a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
And one of the things, this gets into the whole political side of things.
Yeah, let's go there.
Our country, like most nations, are successful when they've got some type of unifying thing that binds them together. And I think America is unique this way in that we've been open to this multicultural idea. I mean, my family, immigrant family, my father, his family came from Lebanon. My mother's, was Irish, not from Ireland, but her family's from Ireland. So I'm a mix, right? I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for America.
Right.
On the other hand, we're so divided that how do you pull a country together to get through a crisis? How do you agree on anything? And so the reason I'm saying new normal isn't that the virus or that you have to wear a mask. I'm not accepting all that BS, but I'm saying this thing where we're just at odds with each other all the time. I'm wondering how you heal that. How do you get past that so that we can just start living good lives together, even in the face of conflict? Come together?
What we need? We need an outside. We need an outside enemy.
Yeah.
World War II was a very uniting time.
Unified.
I'm at the point right now where the only thing I care about in politics is I do want to get unified as a country. It's just annoying to have everyone fighting all the time. And I don't know what it is, but that's always, that happens a lot throughout history where I think Reagan said or something I bet you us and Russia will be best friends when the aliens attack.
Okay.
Right? Basically, I don't know. I'm not saying we should start a war or something, but it'd be good if we had speaking of the narrative, if we had some type of enemy that we could unify against, maybe we could be more united. I guess you can't make that. I don't know.
We used to have the idea, what worked was we're unified in the idea that everyone's allowed to do their own thing.
Freedom.
So it would bring us here. So let's say, you want to I don't even want to get into all this, but like, you want to do one thing, I want to do something else. The idea was, as long as we left each other alone and we didn't hurt each other, who cares what you do?
Yeah.
So that would unify us, because then we could all do our own thing, but we all agree, like, Sean gets to do what he wants to do. Mike can do what he wants to do. Mike wants to go to church and Sean wants to go boozing.
Yeah.
It's a free country. We defend each other's right to do whatever we feel like, as long as it's moral and right and all that.
And that's still the case.
No, I think that's not the case. I think it's
Right.
getting to the point now where people are saying you're not allowed to do something if we all
Yeah.
think it's wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if you
yeah.
don't agree with us, you don't deserve to be here. It's like, since when
Like-
did being an American mean you had to agree?
Right. I guess
So
like,
that's what I'm
I don't know,
concerned
something,
about.
I feel like a basic example of that would be like gun laws or something like that. Like,
Absolutely.
I'm all for that. I'm not a big gun guy, but like, I don't care. I think people should be allowed to have them. But I mean,
do too.
but in some states, it has different laws, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah,
like,
I'm in
so
New
that-
York. New York is
They're
tough.
anti,
like, really
right?
tough.
Anti-gun. And Texas
Yeah.
would be more like pro-guns, right? So like,
Yeah,
if that's
open
really
carry.
if that's really important to you, though, you can move to Texas, right?
Good. Yep.
So like,
You
I don't
could.
know. I feel like what are some examples? I'm always optimistic and positive, and I understand what you're saying, but
Yeah.
I'm challenging it in the fact that I still do think we have that freedom, and I would be like, what is an example of something that we can't do anymore?
I think it's just wrong think or wrong speak. If you say something, if I come out and say, look, I don't have a personal problem if somebody has a sexual orientation, but I think marriage should be between a man and a woman, right? It's just an opinion.
Yeah.
And it's based on thousands of years of human history. It's not
Yeah.
like I came up with some hateful, weird thing. I go, look, this is the way it's worked since we've known, since the beginning of time. I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but I'm just saying this is what I think. Even if I'm not trying to change the law, I just go public and go, I don't think that people should get married unless it's a man and a woman.
Yeah.
You can get deplatformed. You can get, like you might get in trouble. I just said that on YouTube. No, I'm just kidding. But
I
I'm
always
using
say
it as
if I get canceled, that'd be a huge step up for me.
all right. So yeah, it's your claim to fame, right? But my point is, you can get canceled for that, and
But you're allowed to say it like the law allows you to say it.
yeah, but your livelihood, like
Like
this is the thing,
society.
right? Like, the bigger problem is the mob. Like, the law is one thing, but the mob. If the mob rules, where do you go? And I'm just concerned that that's where we're moving to, that the mob gets to make decisions and people just have to live by them, as opposed to us all agreeing, saying, hey, we don't like what Mike said, but we all agree that he has the right to say it. And if you don't like him, ignore him.
Yeah.
But what we do now is, if you don't like him, destroy him.
Right.
And over opinions, it's like, over an opinion?
Yeah.
It just seems so crazy. So
Yeah.
you're right. Look, we still live in the greatest nation in the world. And I don't care, I'll stick by that. The other great nations, but I love America. We've got a lot of freedom. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned about the pathway.
And we do have the freedom of speech, like legally, and the mob is not like a legal thing. It's a society, and like we have to.
But they can destroy your life, though.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it happen.
30 years ago, you could say something, and I might go, "Oh, that guy's. I don't know why he said that," but I wouldn't try to destroy you. But now it's like,
but
they try to destroy you.
they try, and it's worked, and I feel like it was worse like 4 years ago. I feel like it's getting like a little better. Like, who's someone?
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Like,
That's
I
cool.
still think it's like it used to be this, and then I think it was real bad, this whole cancel culture, mob mentality, like 3 or 4 years ago, and I think it's still high, but I think it's gone down from like 2016 to now. I could be wrong. It's my opinion, but
I'd like for you to be right. And
like,
I do think, to your point, a lot of normal people are going, wait a minute,
exactly,
this is getting out of hand.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
like,
hear
that's why
that.
I'm trying to think of maybe a more like recent example of somebody who this did happen to. 'Cause I can't really think of one. Can you think of somebody specifically who said something that was a reasonable comment and is now shunned from society?
An hour and a half in, I'll go blank. Like, I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's someone.
I mean, right. But
Fair enough.
Fair enough, right?
Your
But-
point's well taken.
yeah.
I'll give you that point.
yeah.
Not
And
that we're arguing, but I have to agree with that. Like, yeah, I don't. There's plenty that should come to mind, but yeah, I don't have any right now.
yeah. And I always try to be optimistic, and I understand, and
I think that's great.
and I'm with you, and I think the country, that is a problem, but I just think we'll always balance each other out going forward. I think we're gonna be fine.
I hope so. I hope that we leave room for each other. I'm not trying to make America a conservative paradise. I don't believe that's possible.
Are you like, you
I am
consider
a
yourself a conservative?
Yeah, I'm a conservative, but when I say conservative, I'm not like a Donald Trump conservative. I'm talking like Sir William Burke from the 1700s, like old school conservative, which is really just saying, hey, I respect tradition. I believe that that there's a order that should happen to the universe and the way we order our societies and all that jazz. I mean,
Yeah,
but that said,
I agree with that.
I understand I'm in a pluralistic,
Yeah.
free country, and I respect that. I don't have a problem.
Right.
with that.
Yeah. I've always considered myself like an exact centrist, and it's basically just gives me wiggle room to agree with both sides. But
There you go.
But see, but
To be agreeable. Yeah.
and also have my opinion be valuable, because a lot of people, you don't even need to ask their opinion on politics, because you know what side they're going to choose. They're
just like a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if some opinions on either side, that makes your opinion valuable. And it's actually like, I'm not lying. Like, maybe I'm crafting my narrative, but I'm not lying. But I've just always been also like to like chaos a little bit. Like, I've always kind of liked Trump a little bit, because he's crazy and he's wild and he's good at branding. You don't know what he's going to say, and he's fun and he's funny. And I'm a little more mad at him now, because I feel like he had a really big opportunity to unify the country and didn't do it. He should have made like a "I have a dream" speech, even if it was a speechwriter who wrote every word for him and he just read it.
Sure.
I feel like he had a big opportunity to unite the country and didn't do it, and I'm kind of mad at him for that. But
do you think it's interesting you say that, because I think each president has that opportunity. First of all, when I say I'm a conservative, I don't think that Donald Trump is conservative. I think he's more of a populist that has some conservative ideas, but he's more of a populist to me. But that said, I mean, I voted for him. I mean, I supported him. I want, and I don't see myself voting for Joe Biden, so he's probably going to get my vote again. But one thing I noticed, it's almost like the moment he took office, he's been under attack. Like, he really draws out reactions. Like, you say you're more of a centrist. You probably draw people from both sides to you. Something about Donald Trump, you either like him or hate him. Like, I there's hardly anyone I've said that I've talked to that said, "Oh, yeah, I don't know much about him. I guess he's okay." Like, everyone's like, he's horrible. He's going to be a dictator. Or they're like, "Oh, he walks on water and he's going to cure cancer for us." Like, it's one or the other. He's a very he's a lightning rod, I guess.
He definitely is.
And
I thought that was a really good thing in the peak of 2016, when that mob thing was getting crazy. Like, you needed someone like that to be like, "No, this is not what our country is." Like, and that was one of the reasons I was like really proud of our country when he was elected. But maybe
it's crazy.
Maybe over time that won't be to his advantage as you look back on his history, that he actually just pissed everyone off. And that's why I thought the riots and the George Floyd thing and all that. I thought it was such a good opportunity for him to maybe start, like,
I agree,
being like, "We're one nation." We're like, make some type of "I have a dream" speech, and then start branding it. Like,
I agree.
And then start branding it as like, "I'm the unifying president," and then history books will look well upon that. And I feel like I totally missed that, and it pissed me off.
I think you're insightful there. I thought he was a little tone deaf initially. He kind of came out immediately with like the Law and Order president, and I think he was a bit tone deaf. He had an opportunity to capture the narrative and say, "Hey, all Americans agree, that this is not how we want our country to work." And how do we come together? So anyway, I agree with you there.
He kind of bunkered into the one side
too quickly. I think he could have. You think you're right on with that?
Yeah. So
I
don't know.
If we ruled the world, Sean, think of how great it would be if we were in charge.
Yeah, it sounds easy in theory, right? But then once it start getting punched in the boxing ring, who knows? But
you get that first fist to the face.
One other thing that's cool, speaking of like government and also business, was like, I saw like 2 days ago, there was that, I don't know if you saw it, there was the Congress thing where they brought in all the big tech companies, and they brought in like Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos. And
no, I'm not familiar.
It was really cool. It was basically just Congress. It was like an
they were grilling them
They were grilling them about competition. Like, those companies, I mean, I do think we need to keep an eye on Amazon. My favorite president of all, and do I want to be Jeff Bezos? Do I respect him? Do I think he's the man? Do I think he's so smart? I do. I have nothing bad to say about him. But we got to keep an eye on it, because we need to have a competitive economy. Like, that's why Teddy Roosevelt is one of my favorite presidents of all time, because he was kind of centrist-y, but he did something that no one expected. He broke up like Rockefeller.
Trust buster. And it sounds like anti-business, and I'm all about free markets.
No, it's not. Capitalism. No, actually, part of capitalism is having everyone have an opportunity, and he broke that up, and I'd be pissed if it was my company. I'd love to be in the position where my company's so good and so powerful that I need to be broken up. I'd love to be in that position, but we need to do it as a society. So I don't think there was.
I agree, and I do think that's. I'm sorry. I mean, I was just to say I agree with you that it's also free market principle. These big monopolies. That's why I like working with privately owned businesses, because you're living at James Island, you know your employees, even if you're not having beers with them, you're invested in your community.
Yeah.
Amazon's not invested. What is Amazon invested in? This giant
they can move anywhere. Like my employees have power over me in a way that if I fire them, I need to replace them and train someone else. And it's like, I'm like, come on, let's not do this. It cost me something. I don't know how he did it, but apparently somewhere, one of the Amazon warehouses protested. They wanted more money or something, and he just fired all of them and got new people and didn't lose a second of not getting someone
like
their
Mr.
package.
Burns from The Simpsons.
You have to have such an amazing business to be able to pull that off, because the people lose their power and there's no sense of community. And it's I was just glad to see. I don't think anything really came from it, but I was just glad to see the Congress kind of just, hey guys, we got our eyes on you.
I think it's important.
I thought it was
it's worrisome because this goes back to the cancel culture. If you have all your livelihood and how you live your life and so on wrapped up in a few technology platforms, you get, if you get MasterCard and Amazon Web Services and some of the social media platforms, if they get together and go, yeah, we don't like what this guy's saying, he's done. You can't feed your family anymore. They just shut you down.
They're very, very powerful.
And people don't realize. So I think I'm with you 100%.
If my Facebook ad account got shut down right now, my business would go under. My business would go under within probably 14 days.
There you go.
It happened to me once. We got this weird suspension, and it stopped, and it got it back in 3 or 4 days. But those 3 or 4 days, nothing else in the world mattered except for me getting my Facebook ad account back, because that's how we generate all of our revenue. And I was like, this sucks. I need to go to other platforms to be able to advertise and sell our product. I mean, we have our email list, which was always ours. And then I went to Snapchat and Google and Twitter, and I tried running some ads on there, and they just don't return. And then
not the same way. Yeah.
And then now that I got Facebook back, I probably, if I had more resources, I probably would get a team of people who are focused on the other ones, just for the purpose of not being so connected to them. But at this very moment, Facebook controls my life. If they shut down my ad account, I would lose all my revenue.
There's a strategic kind of, I talk about strategic planning, but there's a strategic issue. If I were in your shoes, I'd say, okay, we have to have a plan. How are we going to build a backup? And to me, just listening, it sounds like your email list. If you could keep growing. I don't know how many records you've got, but if you can keep growing that email list, at some point you don't need Facebook anymore, because now you've got 100,000, 300,000.
I mean, it's a different. I mean, we have 275,000 people active on our email list. Huge.
That's huge, dude.
United Monograms has a big audience, and but if we send out an email, we usually get $2,500 revenue, $3,000 revenue from one email.
Yeah,
and
you
that's
can't
great.
run the business off.
That's
of
great,
that.
but we need $15,000 in sales a day. So that's a nice little piece of it. Always a good chunk, an important thing.
Yeah.
But we're always gonna need, more than just that, I think. And ever since in my young career, it's always been Facebook ads, and they own Instagram. So
they do.
So they send it to Facebook and Instagram, and that's all I need. And they're so good at it. They're amazing.
They really are.
And that's the other reason. Like I said, I know my customers. We put that email list into Facebook. They create a lookalike audience of 2 million people who are exactly like that. They start buying stuff that they get on our email list. So it's they're such a powerful tool, and it's just interesting.
It's scary.
I love you, Mark Zuckerberg. It is scary.
Yeah.
It's scary. and they have no reason not to.
Right.
Now, if I were saying more controversial political things, then I might be much more careful and nervous. And that's when.
That's my point earlier. That's my point earlier. That just you now we're all worried. Am I saying something that's going to get me in trouble where I can't even make my livelihood? That's kind of my point.
Yeah, but. And that is something that at least Congress was grilling them about it, so we're thinking about it. And I think it'll bounce out. But it's crazy world we live in, huh? 2020 is.
It is. I do agree with you. there's a part of not the crazy, but I don't mind a little chaos. I think when things are too static or stable, chaos creates opportunities.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you're smart, and this is one of my big things with my audience, I'll say, look, we can't control the world around us, but we can control what we do while it's going crazy. And this creates opportunity. If you're in a good position, you can do things.
And if you can keep your head on your shoulders while everyone else is freaking out, then you're going to be the person that figures out that new thing first. And that's the reason I like chaos. And I'm sure if I'm if you're big and established, I won't want chaos. But as like I'm young and up and coming, give me that
that's
chaos.
Right.
That's an opportunity.
And you got to play. You got to play the hand you're dealt. So that's smart. Yeah. This is great, Sean. I'm really glad to have been on the podcast today. I've had a lot of fun talking through all this stuff.
Yeah, this is.
So thank you for inviting me.
So much fun, and everyone go follow Mike. Yeah, give a little pitch to yourself before you go.
All right. I'm beautiful, handsome. No. Oh, not that kind of pitch. Yeah, guys, if you want to check me out, first of all, again, big props to Sean for having me on the show. What an honor and a lot of fun time. You can find me in a few different places. You can go to my YouTube channel. We talked about that. Just look for Mike Gastin. It's Gastin. Maybe there'll be a link in the description. I'm not sure. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram. Again, just look for Mike Gastin. And if you want to go check out my business, my website, just go to MikeGastin.com. That's MikeGastin.com. Would love to have you guys
Hell yes. We'll link that. We'll link that all up. Keep doing what you're doing.
All right.
And peace out.
Peace. Thanks so much, Sean. Take care.
Hey, thanks for watching the Sean Lowery Show. You are the greatest. Watch some more videos of me right up here.